Hi everyone, today we have a new video review, and as you can see, this time we are going to talk about fresh release from Meng. And this is a motorcycle kit, so it's part of their 1/9 scale kits, and as you can see today it's a Kawasaki Ninja. It's a ZX-10R, and well, this bike, it's a typical sports bike from Japan, and now you have a chance to replicate it in a large scale. And well, this list of the features hints that there is a lot of stuff replicated for this big model, and that's what we are going to check together today, because it's interesting to see how this particular motorcycle is replicated in plastic. I reviewed the previous releases in the same scale from this brand, so in case you are interested, you can find them on the same YouTube channel, but today we are talking about this one, and that's the final shape of this kit. It was purchased with help of your donations, so if you buy it in any good model shop, you will get exactly the same stuff as what you are seeing today in this video. And here is comparison with my hand. It's not that big box in the frontal projection, but as you can see, it's quite thick on the side. And also here we have two marking options for this motorcycle, but as I'm always saying, you're not limited with this ones only. You can replicate something different if you have some references. And by the way, here is the third marking, just like on the box art. So I guess those are replicating the stock options, and then you can do something custom if you would like to. The assembled model will measure length 232 millimeters, and the width will be 133 millimeters, so it's not that huge build, but still 1/9 scale should make it a bit more enjoyable because you'll have more features on your plastic. And that's a top opening box. Inside, as you can see, all frames, they are sealed into separate plastic bags, and this is quite a good packaging, but it's also not resealable plastic bag, so it will take some time to cut through. And while I'm doing this, again, I remind you that you can support me with a small donation, and it's easy thing to do because it's possible to do via YouTube directly, or you can do it with a big red button on the website, and this way you will be donating via PayPal, so it will be up to you how much you would like to send me. But believe me, all this money will be used for new interesting kits to be checked together. So first of all, we start with this small frame. It was packed with the larger one which you saw on the top, but here, as you can see, we have some external panels, and we also, it's interesting that we have here the throughout holes for the screws. So I wonder if it will be actually holding by the screws, or it will be just inserted into the pins and then it will be finished step. But here from the opposite side, you can see we also have some guiding elements, so it's quite smart design. But of course, it will be also interesting to check how the assembly process is going on. Now for this plastic sprue, I would like to zoom out first so that you can see all of the parts. So these are obviously the engine parts. As far as I remember, this Kawasaki has the 4-cylinder engine, so that's why we have such a large power plant here. And also, it's interesting that it is separated into plenty of sections. You have to combine them together, and it's a good idea to pre-paint some of this, because otherwise it will be difficult to reach some areas, and then it will look ugly. But as you can see, the surface details are looking good. These throttle bodies are also quite nice. And here also you can see some parts of the subframe, and those are again, I guess, some parts for the air intakes or maybe the exhaust stack. Here we have the oil sump, and as you can see, it's also a one-piece part. And I think we even have, yeah, there are large guiding elements in all of these parts, so do not worry. It should be relatively easy to combine everything together, and then the final result will be also a good looking thing, as long as you paint it properly, because I think the paint work also makes a huge difference here. It might sound obvious, but some others think that they get the proper plastic and then they can paint it in just basic, let's say, finish, and it will be fine. But no, it is not working like this, even with the large scale models. So next we continue with another plastic sprue, and that's the frame E1. So again, light gray plastic, and again I will just zoom in a bit so that you can see what we are having here. So those are the front forks, and what is interesting is that we have these shock inserts molded separately, so I guess they will be enclosed into the tubes. I wonder why such design was done this way, maybe to accommodate for the metal parts, but I'm not sure if they're actually included here. And what is even more interesting is that we get the drive sprocket here. And also we have some parts for the steering column, so everything looking nice. These are levers for the clutch and the brake. And also here we have the shock dampener. As far as I remember, it should be installed onto the steering wheel here. But just to give you an idea about this front fork setup, here you can see it in a closer view. And also here are some parts for the power plant. So everything looks nice. I do not see any possible molding damage, but that would be really strange in a Meng kit, because they are quite famous for their molding quality, and I see that nothing is changing during the years. What is also unusual here is how this plastic sprue is molded. I don't know why it is done this way, so we will have to check in the assembly manual, but it is interesting that, as you can see, here we have the clear part molded together with the black plastic and also with the clear plastic, and I guess they are connected together. And because this is obviously the main brake cylinder tank for the brake fluid, and I wonder how it is actually molded like this. So now they are molding the multi-color parts. This is even more unusual. For me, it's the first time I see such thing, but if you have already some experience, feel free to write in the comment section. I will be happy to hear your opinion about such thing. And next, I'm opening the plastic bag with the sprue G. So let's move this frame aside. And as for the G frame here, as you can see, we have more of the external parts. I guess I need to zoom out so that you can see them. Those are mainly fairings for the motorcycle. Also here we have, for example, the handles for the throttle and just the simple handle for the left side. Here we have the chain guard, and everything looks pretty neat. I mean, even the attachment points are placed in hidden spots. So as you can see here, we have some guiding elements which are actually not that important if you scratch them. So you shouldn't be worried that you can end up with the ugly looking part. And I guess that's how it should be done, because this way you save yourself a bit of the worries and you can actually do the separation a bit faster, because anyway, later these elements will be hidden. So it's a good decision from Meng. And now I'm battling with the the next plastic bag. So just give me a second to open it. Because here we have the road wheels, or more of the rims for these wheels. And also I can see the small sprue with the oil filter housing. So I will show it in a second. Here it is. And maybe it's worth zooming in so that you can see what we are talking about. So this is the oil filter. As you can see, it is attached from the bottom surface. And also those are wheel hubs, which will be used for installing the wheels, obviously. But it looks neat, and also I like how the surface details are looking here. It's really nice work for such large size. Well, for the wheel rims, they are 3-spoke wheels, and I'm not sure if it is actually like this on the real motorcycle. I mean, probably it is, because the stock wheels are usually the simplest, but we can all agree that this is not the most sophisticated look you can get on the sports motorcycle. So if you have a chance to upgrade it with something, or maybe to do some unusual paintwork just to make it a bit more interesting, then definitely go for it, because it will be a noticeable thing. I mean, the wheels are always visible on such huge kits, and here it's a motorcycle, so 2 wheels in a different styling will definitely make an effect in comparison with the stock build. Next, we continue with the small parts for the subframe. I guess this will be used for the rear subframe, but we need to check the assembly manual. But note how nicely they are shaped. So these are one-piece elements, and we still get them molded in such a complex shape. So it's something what is quite impressive even today, and I think it might be a really good thing for such kit that you don't have them as a separate or several piece assemblies. Next, we continue here with a bigger plastic sprue. So this is the frame F, as you can see, and these are parts with the airbox and also some of the piping, as you can see. Probably these are exhaust pipes, but everything looking clean again. Maybe for the exhaust pipes again, it's a good idea to paint it in advance and then install on the engine. But also I would recommend to check some reference photos, because maybe you can replicate some burn effect or maybe some stained metal or something else. And next we have another pair of plastic sprues, and here it is also interesting, so I will explain in a second why. So this is the frame K, and we have the chain here. So this is obviously the drive chain. As you can see, it is molded as a single piece part for both sides. So if I flip it over, you can see that these two parts should be combined together, and we have the guiding pins there. So it should be a relatively easy task, but you still have to be careful with these thin parts, because they are really thin and tender. So you can end up with the broken parts, and this is not a cool thing to have for your big scale bike. As for the radiator, so here you can see it. So we have it molded as a single piece part. Obviously the washes are must have here, because otherwise you won't be bringing out all the surface details, but it looks really good. And also here we have the leg rests, and also we have some minor elements which will be installed on the engine and also on the steering wheel, as far as you can see, or the steering column, sorry. And here from the opposite side you can see that parts are detailed from both sides, so it's not just some quick work where the visible part is detailed and the other part is just skipped over because it's not available or not visible on the finished kit. Here it is actually detailed up to the real subject. Next we continue with another plastic bag and another pair of plastic sprues. You can probably hear it because it's such a noisy thing. But here we have this pair of really strange parts. I'm not sure where they will go, so we'll have to check the assembly manual. Maybe the front fork, but I'm not sure. As I said before, here we have the rear view mirrors, also we have the tail tidy, and here we have the radiator grill fan, also some minor elements, even the blinkers are here and the staple lights. So overall they are looking quite good, and I don't think you'll have any issues here. Next I'm opening another plastic bag, and again there is something interesting which I will show in a second, because again it's a mixed molding of several colors. And what's funny, because they packed the clear plastic sprue into the plastic bag, but at the same time this clear plastic sprue is also wrapped into the film, as you can see here. But also here you can see this clear parts in a normal clear plastic, and here we have the clear red and clear orange. So if I zoom in, you can see that these are parts for the stop lights, obviously, for the blinkers, and also here we have the front screen, we have the lenses for the headlamps and some other minor elements. But the molding quality is really nice. I wonder if there will be the masks for the clear elements, because otherwise it will be a bit of a small nightmare to cover all of these parts properly in order to replicate the rubber housings and all other stuff. But it's a must do in such large size, so you won't be able to skip it over as well. Next we continue with another pair of plastic sprues, so I will show it in a second. So first of all we have the front fork parts, and as I said, as you can see here, we have the housings which will be actually inserted on or installed on the previous parts for the forks which we saw before. And next we continue with the frame for the motorcycle. As you can see, these are frame sections. We have the welding seams nicely replicated here. This is the rear subframe here. Again, it's assembled out of two halves, and I guess it's worth zooming in so that you can understand what we are actually talking about here. As you can see, the surface details are really good, and well, the only tricky thing is to get the convincing metal finish on these parts, but it's good that they're not pre-painted. They do not feature some weird material, and it's up to you how you would paint them, because I saw some modelers actually going for the full black look. And well, this is also working as long as you are a fan of such thing. But if you are not, then you can go for the classic appearance. Now I'm trying to find my debonder in order to open the next plastic bag, because this time it's not sealed. It is actually closed with the staples, and it will take some time to open. So it's a bit tricky thing as always. But here, as far as you can see, we have the fuel tank and also some other fairing parts, which are molded obviously as a single piece elements. So this is good. And I will show them in a second. So let's remove. So from the opposite side, as you can see, we have quite generous internal structure. But I guess that's how it is on the real thing as well. So quite nice. And next we continue with the already mentioned fairings. So first of all, this fuel tank and seat one-piece element. So what I appreciate here is that the fuel tank is not assembled out of several halves. It's always not a cool experience to sand those parts to get the smooth finish. Here you get them as a real element, and this is cool. Next we continue with two parts for both sides. These are fairing panels, as you can see here. And also from the opposite side we have some guiding elements, so it will be easy to install them. And all of these things are actually packed into the same plastic bag. More fairings are coming here. These are for the fuel tank, I guess. So these are the sides. And I will try to find... No, it looks like the... Yeah, these are the side panels. And then we have also this panel for the frontal section. So I will place it here. Then we also have this one for the tail, I guess. So I will place it here. And also we have these two parts, which I'm not sure where they are going, because this one should be probably on the right and this one should be probably on the left. And we will see it in the assembly manual, of course, but it's still quite an interesting division of the panels. I guess it repeats or mimics what is present on the real thing, so that's why it is done this way. But it's also a good opportunity to play a bit with the marking scheme, because you can paint them separately and then just install on the motorcycle. Again, just like on the real thing. And I think that's a quite cool thing from Meng, that they decided not to go crazy with the parts division, because some manufacturers rather plan it to be more efficient in terms of the molding. But here we have quite an opposite situation, so that's good. And let's move this sprue or these parts to the side, because we have more fairings. And of course the most important is the front mask, as you can see here. And we have it nicely shaped. Again, it means that you won't have any gaps and seams in such visible area. You just need to install here the clear section and you will be good to go. And we have this special guiding pins for that. So really nice molding quality, and also it repeats the real shape of the real motorcycle as well. Next, more fairings here. I guess these ones are for the tail section. And another pair of large panels. These ones are for the side panels on the front. And as you can see, they also have this nice angular structure. And also you might have seen these large throughout holes or fixings. So this will be probably attached with help of the screws, because otherwise it will be nearly impossible. So what is interesting here is that we have the metal springs. This one will be the rear one. These ones will be inserted into the front shock. And it means that the suspension should be movable on this bike. Not something what is necessary on the standstill model, let's say, on the display model, but some modelers still prefer to have it movable. I don't know why. If you have some ideas about it, write in the comment section. I will be happy to hear your opinion. Maybe there is something I'm missing and it's actually a cool feature, who knows. Next we continue with the vinyl parts for the seats. As you can see, nothing special. These are just black parts. Exhaust sprue was packed with the seat parts. And as you can see, this is a quite bulky exhaust, so it might be a good idea to scratch build something different so that it would look more sporty. And I think it will also help you to differentiate your bike or your build from all of the other projects based on the same plastic. So definitely think about it. Maybe you will come up with something interesting. I mean, even just the straight pipe setup will look way more sophisticated in comparison with this bulky exhaust, which is due to the ecological norms, not due to the beauty. Next we continue with the wheel fenders. So here you can see the front and rear. Again, these are one-piece parts. We have also the guiding elements inside, and they're looking very clean. And the only thing which I would be careful is this attachment point in the frontal section, so it might be a bit tricky to separate for some models. Do not hurry with this, definitely, because it might end up with the damaged part. And then this damaged part, it will be visible in the finished result. It will be really hard to repair it, and especially to polish it. Next, I'm opening another plastic bag. And here we have the exhaust pipes. So I will show them in a second. Here they are. Again, one-piece assembly. And again, it means the easier installation on your model. But also you have to think through how to paint these things, because they look quite large, and it might be worth replicating some temperature effects on the paint, because I think after several starts it will be visible on this metal, and they won't be staying just like clean metal as some models assemble it usually. Next we continue here with more parts for the exhaust, as far as you can see, but we will check it in the assembly manual. Again, quite large guiding elements here, so it will be really difficult to miss this, and you will get a more or less proper fitting as well. So for the wheel rims, here we have quite an interesting thing. Maybe I'll zoom in closer so that you can see what we will be talking about. And I guess it's worth opening at least one, because here we have the vinyl tires. It's not the wheel rims, sorry, it's the vinyl tires of two sizes, obviously, just like on the real bike. But they are quite nicely detailed for the vinyl parts, so I will show you why. So just give me a second. It's a bit tricky to take it out. So here it is, it's the rear tire, obviously, and here you can see that we have the details on the tire walls, which is really cool. And I think it's more than enough for the straight out of the box build. Maybe just sand it a bit in order to get rid of this traditional seam in the middle, but I think it's definitely a step up from what we are used to see in such sets. You might have noticed also that the same plastic bag with these tires, it packed the small screwdriver. It will be necessary in order to work with the various types of the screws which are holding the panels together. And here is also the length of the vinyl pipe or cable, if you prefer. It will be necessary in order to replicate various pipes, obviously. And now I'm trying to understand why the screws are not flying around this tiny box. So we have the small box with all the screws, and this is quite a smart design, because it means that nothing will be flying around, and you get them nicely stacked in the box, and you also have them designated accordingly. So really good packaging decision. And another plastic bag carries the decals and also the assembly manual, so we will check it in a second once I open it. I think it will be interesting to see how the stickers are actually replicated. And just to make it more funny, so the box is actually made in order to accommodate this. So these screws, you will have to separate them according to the designations on the box, and then you'll be good to go. I don't know why they were not separated in advance, but it's also some additional fun time for you. Try just not to lose any of the screws, because as far as I remember, Meng in their large scale bike sets, they do not give any spare screws. And then if you lose one, you will have a fun time for sure. Next we continue with the decals and P parts. Well, these are more of the metal parts, and I will show in a second why. Okay, so first of all we have this mesh for the radiator grill. And as you can see, it's quite thick, but it's not as thick as the next one. So here we have the brake rotors, and these are the metal parts, but not the thickness. So they are up to scale. They also have really nice raised parts here, raised details. So quite a good thing, and I think it will influence the final appearance of the kit greatly, because in this size it will be a very noticeable feature and something what you cannot replicate with the typical plastic parts. We also have the chrome decals for the rear view mirrors, I guess, and one more PE part for some additional mesh. And then we can move on to the assembly manual, which is printed as the brochure. So it's a color printed brochure, at least on the cover. So I will close the lenses so that you won't be blinded by these white pages. But as you can see here, we have the same image as on the box art. If I open it, we have plenty of safety advices. We also have some tips on which tools you should be using. And no history note. That's quite surprising. Assembly process starts with an engine. And as you can see, a lot of parts are actually going together. There are some advices on how to paint these parts. And also here you can see how the drive sprocket will be assembled together with the chain. Then we continue with the chain guard. We start assembling the rear suspension. And all of these elements are actually having the paint instructions here. By the way, you can see the brake rotors going in place, and also the rear wheel rim being assembled together with the tire and then installed in between the rear subframe. Next, we continue with the front brake assembly. And here you can see how the engine is combined together with the one of the frame sides. Next, we continue with combining the rear subframe with an engine. Here we have another frame section being installed from the opposite side. Here, by the way, you can see the air intake being assembled with this small mesh, which we saw just a few seconds ago. Those are actually exhaust tubes or pipes, as we guessed right. And next we have this exhaust subsystem being installed under the bike. We also have here the radiator assembly. This is another radiator assembly for the oil, I guess. And then all of this is being installed onto the frontal section of the bike. Next, we have the front wheel assembly here. That's how the front shock should be assembled. So it's actually mimicking the real setup. As you can see, we have the spring combined with the buffer, and we also have the front slots being inserted inside. And of course, these separate parts, it will make it easier to paint them in a proper color, and you won't have to mask anything basically. Here we have the handlebars assembly and the second step for it, and then we combine it together with the main frame. Next we have the subframe assembly for the rear section, and also we attach the license plate even here. I don't know why it's needed on this bike. Next we continue here with the so these are the leg rests. And next we continue with exhaust. We also assemble the dashboard, which will be basically replicated with the decal because it's the digital dashboard. Then we continue with the front fairing. Here we have the leg, or actually this is like the lower left side assembly of the fairings from both sides, and here you can see how they will be actually enclosed from both sides. So this is a quite smart design, and by the way, here you can see how the front tank is actually assembled. So it's two-piece assembly, just like on the real bike, so do not worry about this. And here we have the rear view mirrors and the seats. That's the part map. So everything is shown here. And next we have the first marking option here. That's the 40th anniversary edition. Here we have another one. This is the simple one, KRT edition. And here we have the metallic flat full metal. As you can see, even the frame is black. Here it's also black, and on this anniversary we have it in the metal color. So overall, it's a really great release for those who would like to have their own sport bike. And by the way, I forgot to show you the decals sheet, so here it is. We also have the wheel circles and various decals for the fairings. But of course, I will be happy to hear your opinion, so do not forget to write it here in the comment section below. And I will see you in the next video review as usual. Thank you for joining me today, and bye.